friends, and familiars.
You want us to?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Look, we'll look at each other, right? I'm not a videographer or cinematographer, so I just make sure that this thing shows up in the recording. But anyway, hello, fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Matt Orozco from Macabre Daily. I'm here with Elijah Wood and Ann Timpson, both the director and star of Bookworm, which will be out on October 18th this year. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for the time and congrats on your U.S. premiere today.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Seriously, you absolute legends in your respective.
In our minds.
Yeah, well, in a lot of people's minds. So you got that going for you. Most people that live the legends of their own mind don't get the chance to share that with others in agreement. So. I've got a few questions for you. I don't have all the time in the world, but what I want to start with is the personal connection here. So yeah, this is your second full feature director's debut. Come to Daddy, obviously you both worked together on in the past, and that was a very personal film for you. So I'm curious how much of your personal experience shows up in Bookworm, and what was the inspiration for the story?
I mean, I have to have some of that personal connection into every film I'm going to be involved in. Otherwise, I just think it's too long, it's too exhausting, takes too much chunk of your life not to have that personal connection. It's
as a way in.
Yeah, it's not a gap for hire. I just that's not me. So there's a lot of that really means a lot to me. I mean, it all stems from as a dad of shitting the bed in front of my kids in a time of crisis. That's kind of like the crux that Toby and I talked about. That it all sort of stemmed out from there. But it's also like this the lack of wonder and mystery I feel like we have in today's world that existed for me as a kid. It was a real luxury to be a kid in the 70s where there was no parental supervision a lot of the time. We ran miles. We always wondered what was over the next hill. Now you just Google it.
Right.
You know, so it's like I grew up thinking there was going to be quicksand around the corner.
Oh yeah, that
yeah, Bigfoot was real.
Yeah, the entire city's a danger, right?
Yeah, and so but also just being allowed out in the wilds.
Yeah,
and know and like come home when you come home, kind of thing. So it's a tribute to and a love letter to that era of my life. And what we do is we shape it inside this 12-year-old girl, and Elijah plays the foil in this sort of great, odd, endearing, road movie between the two, set in the great outdoors. But yeah,
it's almost like a planes, trains, and automobiles for disparate parent and child to some extent. And Elijah, I know you're a father of two, and I'm curious to know how that becoming a father kind of shows up, or if it does at all, in your performance as Strawn.
Not much, in the sense that Strawn really.
I hope you're a better dad than
I hope so too. Yeah, Strawn is incapable of being a father until this very moment. He was estranged from his daughter, and tried to have this career that was unsuccessful, and he kind of rises to the occasion and sort of fails in the eyes of his daughter, who sort of sees right through him.
Right.
So this is a character that is kind of inept and doesn't know what it means to be a dad, and over the course of the film, kind of gets stripped down to his vulnerability, and that all of the kind of artifice of his past and who he is as a magician is kind of BS, and he is a failure. He's a failure in his own eyes, and it's through that he finds what it really means to be a dad, which is connecting and looking at his daughter and being there as a protector and just also being vulnerable. Part of this daughter,
And of course, being an illusionist, right? Were you an illusionist prior to this, or did you have to learn some tricks to be able to get into the role?
Not an illusionist. I remember when I was in my teens or early 20s, I'd learned a couple of basic card tricks, all of which I've forgotten now. But for this, he'd been sending me videos for like 6 months prior to shooting of these really incredible tricks, these card tricks from this person on Instagram that we both follow. And he'd send them to me with the hope he'd learn this.
Yeah.
Here's some homework. Here's some homework. And it was scaring the shit out of me because these were complicated card tricks. I thought, oh man, if this is what his expectation was, I've really got some work ahead of me. And I was in the middle of production on something else. I didn't feel like I had the time. Anyway, I ended up sitting with a magician in Los Angeles, this guy called Mike Pisciano, who's amazing, close-up magician. And basically just work on card dexterity, holding cards a specific way, shuffling, fanning, the sort of things that essentially show that the character knows what he's doing with cards, because there aren't any specific tricks in the movie that I had to learn. It's really sort of the areas around it. The main first trick that he does, it was like fanning and shuffling that were for me what we're going to sell it. And then throughout the film, there's like bits of him holding cards. I just wanted that to look real and authentic, and beyond that, I didn't have anything else to learn.
Well, maybe you're carrying your finger flint now, you know, that you right? So,
The finger flint
Yeah,
is
it's-
pretty amazing.
The trick is to stay alive.
That's right.
What's the horror film?
I want to say Predator, but I'm not sure. Under pressure, it's always hard to get at
I
those.
can't remember. Is it Trick or Treat? Maybe.
The trick is to stay alive.
Yeah, it's an 80s one. But anyway, sorry.
Well, is it the, I don't know, if, yeah, you're going to derail my ADHD real fast right there, that one. But as far as working with Nell Fish, you know, obviously she's an absolute delight. And
Yes.
how does it feel to just have the piss taken out of you for like 100 minutes by an actor who's, you know, 3 times younger than you?
It's great. She's the one running the story,
Right.
In some ways, it made my job easier. I am a reacting kind of foil in a way to what she's doing, which is really driving the storytelling, and driving that relationship. You know, Strawn is always on his back feet, and for me as an actor working with her, who is in such command of what she was doing, was a delight. It was a really fun dynamic to play.
It is, yeah. And I remember you giving early feedback in the script, and we adjusted a little bit because it was just a punching bag scenario going on, and it wasn't going to help both characters. It was going to help him, and it wasn't going to help her, and the audience might turn off a little bit to each of them.
Right.
So we kind of adjusted it to, I think, which is kind of now a fun balance. Before it was just a complete beat up for
Oh yeah.
the whole thing.
It was a massacre.
It was a massacre.
Well, you know, it's kind of like that. I don't know if you see a movie called Dutch with Ed O'Neill, where he kind of
Sure,
yeah.
pick up his
It's great fun.
his like stepkid, you know, and they have to do that road trip through it. So it kind of gave me a lot of very similarities to that. Where
That's a cool reference, yeah, because I actually went back and watched it recently because someone said, "Oh, yeah, it's actually really good," and yeah,
it's a sweet, dull, tender movie.
Yeah.
And
It's
the other
hilarious.
actor, that is fantastic.
Yeah,
too.
and I forget he can. Is that Ethan? I think it was Ethan.
Embry.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's an Embry.
Yeah, because he grows up.
Right.
I'm trying to think. His face is like just the same one as it is in
Yeah.
Empire
I
Records. So
think you're
yeah.
right.
yeah.
He's an incredible actor,
Yeah.
even now.
Well, a couple more questions for you. You know, one is around kind of location. I know with Come to Daddy, you were in a single location. You found that house in Vancouver. You're like, this is where the inspiration starts. But here, obviously, you're filming, I presume, in New Zealand.
Yeah.
What's the difference for you, kind of filming both in a single location versus having kind of on location, different set, or moving from place to
I
place?
mean, it's critical for me, like the types of films we're trying to emulate that I grew up with. There was no cheating, you know, it's all on location, and so I feel like you have to have that immersive quality for the audience to be part of the journey
Yeah.
of the characters,
Yeah.
to actually get in there and do it. So, and it also happened in a lot of the areas that I grew up in on holidays down in the South Island, and I've got family connections in a lot of the area that we shot in. So yeah, just very coming home aspects to it. So yeah, it's a smorgasbord of treats, visual treats. It's just like it's sort of culling them down to like what can be achieved in the amount of time and days you've got, and what works best for the sequences in the film. And yeah, I think we've ended up with a really good mix in terms of like the inherent visual power of the locations that we use that sort of drove the story in the ways that we needed.
An incredible diverse mix of landscapes too.
Yeah.
And like we had a whole day shooting up from a helicopter. So we were able to fly to all these different remote locations and get really wildly different landscapes
Yeah.
that are peppered throughout the film that just give it such an incredible.
New Zealand's so great, isn't it?
Oh,
it's just a beautiful country. And on that note, you know, working with the New Zealand Film Commission, you know, one of the things I kind of more of a question for you to answer around is you've been in production for so long, right? In different facets, and especially kind of helping to shepherd in genre filmmaking out of New Zealand. I'm curious what it's like working with the New Zealand Film Commission, and also, you know, I think it's just recency bias, but it's just seeing a lot of more New Zealand films, especially genre films, coming out. So how much does the Film Commission have a say in that versus you're pushing it forward, or is it a good kind of happy mix of the two?
Well, I'm in a tricky position because I'm also on the board of the Film Commission, so I have like massive conflicts of interest all the time. But
Fund my movie, come on.
yeah, I'm always about pushing genre forward, and they're pretty genre friendly there. And genre's so broad now, like it's used for everything coming in. But I think, you know, original voices that feel like they're going to make an impact offshore, I'll always get behind and push as hard as I can. But yeah, it's hard, man. There's not a lot of money in New Zealand for film at all, and so I think the numbers can be a lot higher if we can actually make that happen. I don't feel like we put out a hell of a lot, to be honest. If you
Not
look
as
at
much as there should be.
no, if you look at the numbers of films, and like I think we just bat above our weight that we make more good than bad, possibly
Yeah, good batting
in
average.
terms of the numbers. And you know, people go, oh, you did House Fun, you did this. It's like, yeah, but there's 10 years in between those
Right.
films, so it's like, you know, I think we look to Australia and they just do that it's the grass is greener, right?
Yeah.
Every time. So people think, oh, that country's, you guys are smashing it, but we feel like that about Australia. Like they've got star pool, they've got talent actors. We've got a very limited pool that we work with, and they seem to have breakouts all the time. But when I go over there, they say, "Oh man, New Zealand, you're so," you know, it's shit everywhere. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is something.
But the talent's there, but it's like it's always going to be hard.
It's always going to be hard. It doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think what's always such an invigorating thing is that you know, I just was at the Rule of Jenny Penn earlier, and
Yeah.
you have James Ashcroft making another film, and
Yeah.
the heavy focus on the Maori culture and people. I think also is a huge differentiator that you don't get as much of that. You know, Australia doesn't do as much kind of focus on the Aboriginal. So I always think that New Zealand has that about it, as a deep respect for the people of the land, you know, and obviously.
Yeah, it's an identity for sure.
Yeah. There's two new indigenous. There's a new indigenous horror coming out. Aussie, that's pretty good. I think it might even play Sundance this year.
Oh yeah, which one is that?
Mugai,
Right.
Mugai, I think it's called. And then there's Marama, which is coming out of New Zealand, being shot now, another horror. So yeah, it's definitely it's opening up, and there's those new voices coming through, which is cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, my last question for you both is my favorite question. Hopefully, it's not too difficult, but is if you're putting up a double feature with Bookworm, you know, someone saying, "Hey, your program at film festival, we're putting in Bookworm, but you get to choose the other film. Doesn't matter if it's gone before or after. What film would you put with it?"
One of the natural choice would probably be
The Edge.
Yeah.
The Edge. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Complete polar opposite.
That would be
Absolutely.
it was a huge inspiration for
Yeah, for the film.
the film.
Not just the title. I mean, The Edge is with Anthony Hopkins,
Yeah.
Baldwin, and Bart the Bear. And you know, they had to change the title for studio pressure, and
It was originally titled Bookworm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
so that's the script. That was the David Mamet script. So we stole that as a tribute to fellow Kiwi Lee Tamahori. But I love that version of Bookworm as well, you know. And so there's overlaps. That would be a cool double feature.
It would be a very cool double.
And I think Toby Harvard, he'd probably say something like Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much. Again, reminders
Thank
for those
you.
watching this that Bookworm will be out October 18th. You can see it everywhere, day and date. And Elijah, Ann, thank you so much. Pleasure meeting you both today.
Thanks for having
hey,
us.
man, thank you.